Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Nels.
Hey, Mr. Ferguson, thank you for being here. 19,000 law enforcement agencies reporting. Are there 19,000 agencies reporting? Is it required to report their crime?
No, sir, it's not.
Do you believe there should be some law that would require a law enforcement agency to report their crimes to their communities? I mean, if I was going to move into some place, I'd kind of want to be able to go to a website to see how many index crimes, you know, the robbery, rape, murder, all that.
What I can tell you is that my experience with the law enforcement agencies we work with, they want to do this.
They do?
They do want to report this stuff to us, yes.
Most of them?
All of the 19,000 that are in the program right now want to report.
All right. If I was the mayor of Chicago or New York over the past couple of years, you think I would really be willing to release all that information to the FBI so the American people can see an increase of crime?
I'm not certain the process that would be followed for the mayor to stop the reporting of uniform crime reporting to the FBI.
Well, if there's no teeth behind it, if New York City, Chicago, and LA, big cities, you talk about, what is it, 78% participation rate? When you have those three big cities with the millions of people in it, they didn't report in 2021. So how in the hell would anybody, even on the city council, or anybody in that community even know, do we have enough police? Also in the UCR and Neighbors, I'm a little experienced with this because I was a sheriff, but it also shows the solve rates of the crimes. Like, what is the average solve rate? Explain to people, what's the average solve rate on a burglary in the United States of America?
I don't have the numbers.
Oh, it's less than 10%. We don't solve too many of them. But the point I'm making, this is good information for the American people to have at their disposal as it relates to whether they want to move into a certain community within a certain state. And why would New York, I'll tell you why would Chicago, LA, and New York City not want to report their crime? Because it's bad. It's bad news. Politics gets involved. And if you don't have to report it, why should I? I wouldn't report it. I think this committee should look at it and say maybe we should require. Because if you don't report it, you're hiding something. Because I loved reporting my crime in the UCR because we solved more crime than anybody. And it was something for me to motivate my personnel with, and being an elected sheriff, I was sharing with people. We solve more crime and have less crime than all the surrounding counties. It was good news to share. But if you're one of those municipalities where crime is out of control, and we've seen it in these large cities, Chicago, LA, New York, you're not going to want to report it. Do you believe that we should withhold any type of grant funding? UASI grant funding, all of it, from municipalities that refuse to report?
So while it would be improper for me to talk about withholding funding, what I can say is that the law enforcement agencies that report, we are at almost 85% of law enforcement agencies that are reporting, covering 94% of the population.
Okay. Have you ever changed the report? Has a large agency or any one of the agencies ever called you up one day and said, hey, buddy, you reported this, but we sent you that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, here's one. Baltimore reported. Now, you would think the city of Baltimore would know how many homicides they have. I mean, come on. I mean, pretty simple. Part one, you know, index crime. They reported 262 murders in 2023, and you reported they only had 225. How does that happen?
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, that's a problem. But you wonder why your agency's not trusted, why the FBI needs to have a completely overhauled. The Milwaukee Police Department reported a 7% increase in robberies, but the FBI showed a 13% decrease. Who's manipulating this data?
What I can tell you is that the law enforcement agencies have the ability to change their data at any given time. We don't stop them from doing that. We produce a static report that's static for that time period, and that at any given time they can change their crime stats. But we have no desire but to do anything but get it right.
So the Washington Examiner had a report back in April 5th of 2024 that exposes your inaccurate information in the reporting that we've seen out of the FBI. It needs to be addressed, and I'm hoping this committee can look at holding large agencies accountable. I know the UCR is a little different from NIBRS. It's a little bit more complex, a little bit more complicated, but I think we should require agencies to provide that information whether it's good or bad, because I think the American people have a right.
Would the gentleman yield for once?
Sure, if time's out, go ahead,
Representative,
Mr. Chairman.
Does Chicago report, Mr. Ferguson, its data to the
Time is,
FBI?
I'm sorry.
They didn't
Mr.
report in
Garcia.
2021, that's clear.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia, time has expired. We're both, for every gentleman up here, both you guys, it's expired. Chair recognizes now the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.